Hi, my name is Jeff Pagano, and welcome to the Harpin and Rugby podcast. Joining me this week is someone back for cap number 74. Welcome back to Mr. Connor Cronin.
Almost at 3/4 of a century, and totally forgot that the 500 pod would get me closer. So, this is great.
Anyway, listen, let's get this over with. Return our attention to that feature match of the week. Here's a generic and very reluctantly written 80-word summary of how things went. Leinster's winning streak ended in Cardiff with Luke McGrath's late converted try securing a losing bonus point in a tense, rain-soaked contest. Cardiff led through a Callum Sheedy penalty and an Aled Davis try, capitalising on handling errors and territorial pressure. Leinster struggled in difficult conditions, losing Harry Byrne early and relying on defensive steals to stay in touch. McGrath finished a well-worked move to close the gap, yet Cardiff controlled possession late on to close out the 8-7 result. Now, obviously, we'll go into a bit more detail than that. And to lead us off this week, Connor, now, the weather forecast I saw for Cardiff on Friday evening was summarised in just one word: clear. But as we all saw, the heavens opened in the Welsh capital about 15 minutes before kickoff, and the wind, which was forecasted at a max of 20 kilometers per hour, was definitely a whole lot stronger. So, while that's certainly not unusual for weather either side of the Irish Sea, in the first half, Leinster just didn't seem to be able to adapt to the conditions, did they?
No, not even a little bit. I mean, if it had been anything other than a 4G pitch, it would have been clear as mud, and that'd be about it. That's the only clear we'd get. It was torrential looking rain. I felt sorry for anyone having to stand around in that kind of a weather and then get subjected to that match. We definitely didn't adapt to the conditions. Firstly, there were definitely a few players wearing the wrong studs. You could see players slipping all over the place. And that's... I mean, you didn't anticipate the rain, but you got to come prepared. Like, surely you had a spare pair of boots. And when you saw and had a look outside and said, geez, lads, it's raining. Maybe we should change our boots. But it's not just that. I mean, I know we didn't... Cardiff had the benefit of the wind in the first half. And you could see it. There's one particular box kick I'm thinking of where, the ball gets kicked and it goes about 10 or 12 metres and then kind of comes back to where everybody was. And even the ref had to say it, where it's like, no, that ball has moved. I watched it. So I can't technically call anyone offside here because everybody went and everybody had to come back.
Out in the air.
And it was just one of those kicks though, and there were a lot of kicks, and I had to wonder, why were we kicking contestable kicks in those conditions? Because it wasn't that kind of weather, nor was it the weather for running rugby. So why were we looking for running threats? But then we'd go for a couple of phases and then we'd box kick, and then we had Fintan Gunn, who only knows how to kick on one foot, and just telegraphing exactly what's coming every time, because he'll arrive at the ruck and then have to completely move himself around. Why was he trying to pull the ball out from one side, then go into the other side of the outstretched leg to take the box kick? But it's just so telegraphed that Cardiff players are like, oh, he's going for a box kick. Okay, let's go back a few steps, lads. We'll be all right. And not having the sense to say, oh, look, they're all stepping off because I've moved around the other side of the ruck. I wonder who I could pass it to all of a sudden. You've created space by shaping up for a box kick. And if you look up and you look at what's going on, even something smart like immediately pass it out to 10 and let 10 kick it long, or go a couple of extra passes and see if we can get a better position on the pitch before that kick goes down long. But we weren't kicking long. We were kicking to contest on a night where chances were you were going to knock it on, and you end up with some shocking number of scrums, particularly in the first half. It was just scrum after scrum after scrum. I mean, we've all seen that meme of the forwards. You know the one I mean, where the forwards are standing covered in mud and they're looking over, and it's like the look the forwards have when the backs have dropped
are squeaky
again.
clean. Yeah.
But the back, it wasn't just the backs dropping it. Everybody was dropping it. I couldn't I mean, I know we were only going a couple of phases, but I just couldn't see us getting past a couple of phases either because the conditions were just so bad. The other thing that's worth saying is that Harry going off early was absolute punishment for us. I get the feeling that Harry was probably expected to play 60 or 70 minutes of that game, and that Tector would have come on for Henshaw and then maybe shifted over with Osborne coming on later, at a different point. But I think that Tector's mindset was in 12, not in 10, which suggests to me that that's what he'd been planning for all week, and then suddenly everything changes. And like this was the kind of night where you needed somebody whose game management head has been on the whole time, not somebody who's switching between two positions. We needed Harry's... I suppose we just needed Harry's sense of reading the game from the 10 position, not Charlie's reading the game from the 12 position. And I think the other thing that we could have done with, and in one sense I'm glad we didn't, but we probably could have taken Gunn off earlier and brought McGrath on sooner. That's the kind of game that McGrath is used to running. He's got more experience at it. I don't like to be critical of the players. I wasn't there. I wasn't on the pitch. I wasn't reading things the same as they were. But I just think in those conditions, McGrath would have been better. I'm kind of glad they didn't. It would have been if they'd done to Fintan Gunn what they did to the front four at 35 minutes. That could be a real knock to a young player's confidence, and I'm glad he got to see out as much of the game as he did. And I'm even more glad that he's now going to have to sit and watch the replay and look at his decision making and look at why he did what he did. I wish he could be doing that with Jamison Gibson Park sitting beside him, saying things like, why are you running there? Why are you kicking there? Why are you passing there? Why aren't you making this choice, so that he gets that experience? I mean, he'll have Luke McGrath there doing the same job, I'm sure. And he'll have, the attack coach doing it. But I just think when McGrath came on, we looked to be a little bit more threatening. We looked for a couple of minutes, not for long enough, but we looked like we had a chance of getting into their 22, which we hadn't. The weather was that bad that we just spent the whole match playing in our own half and kicking contestables when you should have been kicking for distance. It's been said on the pod a few times how good the Leinster fitness is, that you can wear a team down and win ugly in the last 10 minutes. We needed to be kicking long ball down into corners, have them turning and running, have things where you've got a referee shouting, shouting at forwards that they need to work themselves back on side and put the effort in. But instead, we had box kick after box kick of predictable kick, and it didn't suit the conditions. It might have suited the game plan, but it's one of those situations where the game plan goes out the window the minute those first few changes happen, and those changes being the weather and the loss of Harry. We needed to do something different, and we didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is true. I don't think we played the conditions well. As Keego always says on his previews, the game's very easy from the couch, and that's kind of our premise. We're fans. We're not the players. They understand a lot better than we do, but still, we're fans. We have opinions. We watch every week, so this is why we harp on it. But it just didn't seem like it seemed like we were executing the plan we had for the game anyway. And regardless of what was actually happening on the pitch. And like you say, it will stand to Vincent Gunn, the experience. But I mean, I don't think it's. I honestly don't think it was all about the conditions. I think you're right. I think losing Harry. I think if you had to point to one thing, if you say, okay, we lost by 1 point, where were the 2 points we needed to win? And I think it's right there. I think if Harry could have played the 60, 70 minutes he was going to play, I think we would have had enough. We would have played with enough nous, I suppose the word is, to be able to, like you say, move the ball up the field. The only really chance we got to affect a play in their half was in the second half when we won that penalty. Now, we weren't winning a lot of penalties. We weren't winning kickable penalties. We weren't winning penalties around, too many penalties around midfield where we could get a 5-meter line out. That wasn't happening for us. There was no other entry way of getting in, but we were stealing their lineouts. We did have a decent read on their jumps. So if we were able to
stole 5 of their lineouts.
Yeah. So if we were able to pin them back, there was always a chance we were going to win it. So it just seems strange that they didn't go to that sooner.